Good evening to all the members of Ritambhara. I wish you a very good evening, and today also I have come before you to do my bit of sharing from the Srimad Bhagavat Mahapurana. I will read out the English translation. Yesterday I read out till the third discourse. Today I will read the fourth one. Om Namah Vasudevaya Namaha. Redemption of a Brahmana. That is the story of Atmadeva. We will begin today. So here we have Suta, who is having his discourse with Narada, as Narada is engaged in performing the Jnana Yagya to revive the sons of Bhakti. And after this we have Suta's discourse here with Narada. Now, perceiving extraordinary devotion in the mind of his devotees, the Lord, who is so fond of his devotees, entered the sinless hearts of his devotees, leaving his own realm. He had a garland of sylvan flowers, was dark brown as a rainy cloud, and was clad in yellow silk, stole the mind of all, was resplendent with girdle, and was adorned with a brilliant diadem and earrings. He stood in a lovely pose with his body slanting at 3 places, and was decked with the charming Kaustubha, a diamond-like gem hanging on his breast. He possessed the grace of million of cupids, and was daubed with heavenly sandal paste, and was embodiment of supreme bliss and consciousness, most charming, and held a flute against his lips. The denizens of Vaikuntha, as well as those like Uddhava, who are devoted to the Lord Vishnu, were present there under the disguised character with the object of listening to this story. Then shouts of glory, glory to the Lord, and blasts of conch shell were repeatedly heard. There was an unusual abundance of joy, and showers of red powder and flowers from above. Those present in the assembly forgot all about their body, dwelling, and their own self. Perceiving this state of their absorption, Narada said, "Such transcendental virtue emanating from the hearing of Srimad Bhagavata in a week has been witnessed by me today. O great sages, even those who are ignorant and wicked, including beasts and birds, here have all become sinless. Therefore, in the Kali age, there is certainly no other holy act on earth. The region of mortals as efficacious in purifying the mind as well as in wiping out the heaps of sins as the story of Bhagavata. Let me tell you what types of individuals get thoroughly purified through a 7 days of yagya consisting of an exposition of Srimad Bhagavata. Keeping in view the good of the world, an altogether novel method has been brought to light by you, compassionate as you are." Here, in this sloka, we come to see that Narada is here elated. He is very, very happy, and he declares that how effective the chanting of the Bhagavata is in dispelling the sins of the people, and even the beasts and the birds also who were present in that occasion. They are also relieved of their sins and are blessed by Krishna. So here he wants to share with us that how the chanting of this Bhagavata can relieve the people from their unpurified self and purify them within the 7 days of yagya. Now this 7 days of yagya, that is listening to the Bhagavat or reading the Bhagavat within the 7 days span. This is like a prescription which is given, a remedy for getting liberated in the Kali Yuga, getting liberated from the burden of the sins and getting purified thoroughly from inside. Now this yagya, it is very effective because during these 7 days when we are listening to the recitation of the Bhagavat or we are chanting the Bhagavat, during that time the vrat is that we have to observe the righteous deeds. That is, no telling lies, not keeping to the righteousness has to be like a vrat. So that is the yagya. Otherwise it will not be effective. So this is what Narada says, that which are the types of people now who can be benefited by this. The Kumaras said now, those men who constantly perpetrate sinful deeds, that is those people who are constantly into sinful activities, who are ever addicted to immoral practices, who takes to evil ways, who are consumed by the fire of anger, and who are wicked and full of passion, and are purified in Kali Yuga through a 7 days yagya, as it is said here. Even those who are devoid of truthfulness, who revile their parents, who are restless due to their thirst for pleasures, who do not follow the duties of their ashrama, who are hypocrites, who are jealous of the achievements of others, who take delight in destruction of life, become holy through a 7 days yagya in Kali Yuga. Those who commit the 5 great sins, that is drinking, killing a Brahmana, stealing gold, having intercourse with the wife of one's preceptor, and treachery, who are engaged in practicing deception and chicanery, who are cruel and merciless like demons, who have grown fat with the money of Brahmanas, who commit adultery, all are purified in Kali Yuga through a 7 days of yagya. The fools who are ever obstinately engaged in committing sins by thought, word, and deed, who are parasites, whose mind is impure and whose heart is wicked, they all attain purity through a 7 days of yagya. Actually, as we have read yesterday and we have heard yesterday, that in the previous chapters we were told in the previous chapter that when the 7 days of yagya is prescribed because it can be done in more days also, but since in Kali Yuga it is almost next to impossible to abstain from all bad activities and perform this yagya. So that is why it is reduced to 7 days limit. So within this time, if this Bhagavata is read and heard, then it will relieve the person from all the troubles. So this is what Narada says now. We now relate to you an old historical legend. Now we have a beautiful story here which is going to tell us about the efficacy of this reading and listening of the Bhagavata within the span of 7 days. Sins are destroyed by merely listening to it. In days gone by, a beautiful town was situated on the bank of Tungabhadra. All the residents of that town performed the duties of their caste, spoke the truth, and engaged themselves in righteous acts. There lived in that town a Brahmana named Atmadeva, who was well versed in all the Vedas and proficient in performing rites laid down in the Shrutis and Smritis. He was glorious like a second sun. Though rich, he made his living by alms. His wife, called Dhunduli, was of good parentage and good looking, but she always ruled over her husband. She indulged in worldly gossip, mostly talked a lot, was cruel and miserly, and expert in household duties, though quarrelsome. So the Brahmana couple lived together affectionately and enjoyed life. They had enough to satisfy their desires and achieve their objects. They had a good house to live in, yet They were not happy. When they became aged, they commenced righteous deeds with the object of having an issue. They wanted to have a child, so they started performing good deeds. They started gifting every day cows, land, gold and clothes to the needy people. In this manner, they spent half of their fortune on the righteous deeds. Yet, they did not get a son or even a daughter. This greatly worried the Brahmana. One day, the Brahmana, distressed as he was, left his house for the forest. At midday, he felt thirsty and therefore went up to a tank. The grief born of issuelessness had made him lean and thin. After he had drunk water, he sat down. He was extremely exhausted. After one muhurta, a sannyasi too arrived at that very spot. When the Brahmana saw that the sannyasi had quenched his thirst, he went to the sannyasi and after bowing at his feet, stood in front of him sighing. Then the sannyasi said to him, "O Brahmana, why do you weep? In what great distress are you? Tell me at once the cause of your grief." The Brahmana submitted, "O sage, what description shall I give you of my sorrow earned through the sins I did in my previous lives? When I offer oblations of water to the spirits of my departed ancestors, the water becomes lukewarm through their sighs, and they drink that lukewarm water. The gods and the Brahmanas do not accept my offerings with pleasure. I am so grieved by the agony of issuelessness that everything appears to me very void and of no value, and I have come here to end my life. Worthless is the life without an issue. Worthless is home without an issue. Worthless is wealth without an issue. Worthless is a race without an issue. The cow I keep turns out to be altogether barren. The tree I plant does not bear any flower or fruit. The fruit that comes to my house soon gets rotten. Why am I so unfortunate and issueless? What for should I live?" Saying so, he was struck with grief. The Brahmana began to weep bitterly beside the sannyasi. This greatly moved the heart of the ascetic. He was established in yoga. He saw the lines on the forehead of the Brahmana, and coming to know everything, he spoke to him at length as follows. The sannyasi said, "O Brahmana, give up the infatuation for getting an issue. Most powerful is the course of one's destiny. Taking recourse to wisdom, give up the craving of mundane existence. Listen to me, O Brahmana, I have looked into your past karma today. For 7 lives you will have absolutely no son and no son at all. In the days of yore, the kings Sagara and Anga had to suffer a lot because of their sons. Therefore, give up all hope of having a family. There is all happiness in renunciation, that is sannyasa." The Brahmana said, "O saint, how will Viveka help me? Perform. Please let me have a son. Otherwise, I will in your very presence become unconscious with grief and give up my life. This renunciation in which there is no pleasure of having a son, etc., is altogether insipid. The only sweet thing in this world is family life, crowded with sons and grandsons." Seeing this insistence of Brahmana, the sage, rich in ascesis, said, "King Chitraketu suffered greatly in his attempt to undo his destiny. Therefore, you cannot be happy with a son, because you are like one whose plans are frustrated by the destiny. You are so insistent and stand before me seeking end. What should I tell you in these circumstances?" When the sage saw that the Brahmana was still pressing his demand, he gave a fruit to the Brahmana and said, "Let your wife eat this fruit. She will then give birth to a son. For 1 year, your wife must practice truthfulness, cleanliness, and kind-heartedness. Give alms and take meals consisting of only one type of cereals, and that too once a day. By doing so, she will get a son of exceedingly sinless disposition. Having said so, the yogi departed, and the Brahmana returned to his house. There he gave the fruit to his wife, and himself went away somewhere. Crooked as she was, this lady was not a straight lady. When she heard everything, she did not take it nicely. His young wife wept and said to one of her female friends, "I am greatly worried, and I will not eat this fruit. By eating this fruit, I will conceive a child and get big-bellied. I will not be able to take full meals. This will make me weak, and I will not be able to do domestic work. If by chance dacoits attack the village, how will a pregnant woman be able to run? If, like the celebrated sage Shuka, the fetus lingers in the womb, how will she be able to deliver it? In case the fetus comes out in a slanting position at the time of delivery, I may even lose my life. Oh, my friend, pangs of childbirth are severe. How will a delicate woman like me bear them? And when I become feeble due to confinement, my husband's sister will take that case away and all my possessions from the house. Moreover, it appears difficult for me to observe the vows of truthfulness, cleanliness, and so on. A woman who has borne a child has to suffer a lot in bringing up the child. In my view, the happy woman is she who is barren or who has lost her husband." Arguing on these fallacious lines, she did not eat the fruit. When her husband asked her if she had taken it, she replied that she had. One day, her sister came to her house on her own accord. She narrated everything to her and said, "I am greatly agitated over this. I am getting weak day by day on account of this worry. Sister, what shall I do?" The sister replied, "I am in the family way. When a child is born to me, I will give it to you. Till then you pretend to be an ensignite and stay in the house comfortably. Give some money to my husband and he will hand over the child to you. I will manipulate things that way. People will say my child died at the age of 6 months and I will come to your house daily and suckle the child. In order to test its efficacy, give your fruit just now to the cow to eat." As it is the nature of women, the Brahmana's wife did precisely as her sister told her. Now, in due course, when a child was born to her sister, the father of the child secretly brought it at once and gave it to Dhunduduli. She too informed her husband that a child has been comfortably born to her. All were happy to learn that a son was born to Atmadeva. The Brahmana performed the ceremony of Jatakarma in connection with the birth of the boy and made gifts to the Brahmanas. There was a mixed noise of songs and musical instruments and much festivity at his door. Dhunduli said to her husband as follows, "There is no milk in my breasts. Milkless as I am, how shall I be able to nourish the child on other milk? My sister recently gave birth to a child, but the child has died. Calling her, keep her in our house so that she will suckle your baby and nourish it." For the protection of his son, her husband did all that he was told by her. The mother, that is Dhunduduli, named the child Dhundukari. So the son was named Dhundukari. 3 months later, the cow also gave birth to a human child. All its limbs were well formed. It was godlike, spotless, and shone like gold. The Brahmana was delighted to see the child, and he himself performed all the purificatory rites connected with it. People took it as a wonderful phenomenon and all came to see the child. They said to themselves, "Look here, fortune has indeed smiled on Atmadeva at the present moment. It is really wonderful that even a cow should fetch him a godlike child." By the dispensation of fate, no one came to know of this secret. Seeing that the ears of the child were like that of a cow, Atmadeva named it Gokarna. With the passage of time, the two boys grew to manhood. Of them, Gokarna was learned and wise, while Dhundukari was very wicked. He never washed himself, nor he observed cleanliness and other rules of good conduct, appropriate to a Brahmana. He ate undesirable things. His anger knew no bounds. He possessed evil things and even ate food touched by the hands of a dead body. He committed thefts and bore ill will to all. He set fire to others' houses. He took children in his arms, apparently in order to fondle them, and immediately threw them into a well. He took delight in killing and moved about armed. He oppressed the miserable and the blind. He was delighted in the company of members of the lowest caste and used to wander about nose in hands with dogs in search of gain. Falling in the evil company of prostitutes, he squandered all his parental fortune. One day he cudgelled his parents and took away even the utensils from the house. When all his property was thus lost, the miserly father of Dhundukari began to wail at the top of his voice. So the tradition goes, he said, "It would have been much better if his mother remained issueless. An evil son is the source of agony. Where should I live? Where should I go? Who will alleviate this distress of mine? Ah, a great calamity has befallen me. This suffering will prove to be the cause of my death." That moment the wise Gokarna arrived there. Revealing the glory of dispassion, he tried to open his father's eyes. He said, "There is no substance in this world. It is full of misery and is a source of great infatuation. Neither son nor wealth really belongs to us. A man attached to these has to burn day and night on their account. Happiness neither belongs to Indra, the king of gods, nor to the universal monarch. He alone who is disgusted with the pleasures of sense is given the contemplation and lives in seclusion is really happy. Give up the silly notion that Dhundukari is your son. Though through infatuation one's lot is cast in hell. The body of yours is bound to fall. Renounce everything and retire to the woods." Hearing this admonition of Gokarna, his father decided to go to the forest and said, "O son, point out to me in detail what I should do while living in the forest. A fool as I am, bound by ties of affection, I have lain as a cripple in the deceptive well of mundane life due to my past karma. Surely lift me up, O storehouse of compassion." Gokarna then said to his father, "Cease you to identify yourself with the body consisting of bones, flesh and blood. Give up forever the feeling of this with regard to wife, son and so on. Constantly look upon the world as momentary. Taste the joy of dispassion and be established in devotion to the Lord. Constantly practice the virtue of remembering the Lord. Abandon all temporal duties. Wait upon saintly persons and give up the thirst for pleasure of sense. Ceasing at once to dwell on the shortcomings and excellences of others, enjoy you exclusively the delight of serving the Lord and listening to His stories." Renouncing his home in response to his son's advice, Atmadeva withdrew to the forest. Although he was on the wrong side of 60 at that time, he was a man of firm determination. Engaged day and night in service to Sri Hari, he attained to Sri Krishna by regularly reading Book 10 of Srimad Bhagavata. Thus ends the fourth discourse entitled The Deliverance of Atmadeva, a Brahmana, forming part of the glory of Srimad Bhagavata in Uttarakhanda of the glorious Padma Purana. Now I will read out to you the Discourse 5, that is how Gokarna attained final beatitude, along others. So we will come to know about Gokarna and others also who attain their final beatitude. Suta began again. His father having retired to the woods, Dhundukari severely beat up his mother one day and threatened her, saying, "Tell me where is the money, or else I will thrash you with a burning stick." Afraid of this threat and grieved by the ill treatment received from the son, the mother threw herself into a well at night and died of the fall. Established in the union with God, Gokarna experienced no sorrow or joy. He had no enemy or friend and left on a pilgrimage. Dhundukari stayed in the house with 5 prostitutes. His understanding having been confounded by his anxiety to maintain them, he began to perpetrate the most heinous acts. One day, those unchaste women sought ornaments from him. With that end in view, he went out of the house, blind with passion and forgetful of his death. Stealing money from here and there out of the house, blind with passion and forgetful of his death, he started engaging in all misdeeds. He returned home and handed over all the costly garments and gold ornaments to those women. Seeing a collection of abundant riches, the women thought the same night, "This fellow commits burglary every day. Hence the king will surely apprehend him. No, confiscating his wealth, the former will also certainly sentence him to death. Therefore, for the preservation of this wealth, why not secretly kill him? Disposing of him and appropriating the wealth, let us go wherever we like." Having resolved thus, they bound him tightly with cords while asleep, and placing a noose around his neck, tried to strangle him. He, however, did not die soon. Then they were filled with anxiety and actually put some live coals into his mouth. Distressed with extreme agony caused by the flames, he expired. They consigned the dead body to a pit, as women are generally daring as such kind of women. Nobody could know of this clandestine act of theirs in its true colors. Questioned by people, they gave out that, lured by greed of wealth, their paramour had gone to some distant place and would return within that very year. A wise man, as a matter of fact, should under no circumstance repose trust in such wicked women. The fool who relies on them is assailed by calamities. None is beloved of such women, whose speech is full of nectar and enhances the delight of the concupiscent, while their heart is piercing as the edge of a razor. Collecting the wealth, those unchaste women, having many a paramour, absconded, while Dhundukari took the form of a dreadful spirit as a result of his evil deeds. Assuming the form of a whirlwind and tormented by cold and sunshine, he ever ran hither and thither, going without any nourishment and remaining thirsty. Repeating the words, "Ah, goodness," he found no protection anywhere. After some time, Gokarna learnt from the people that he had died. Realizing how helpless the spirit was, Gokarna performed the Shraddha ceremony with respect to him at Gaya. No, to whatever place of pilgrimage he repaired, he did Shraddha there. Roaming about in this way, the said Gokarna returned to his own town. Unnoticed by others, he came to sleep at night in the courtyard of his own house. Coming to know that his kinsman was lying asleep there, Dhundhukari revealed himself to him at midnight in a most frightful form. Now he appeared as a ram, now as an elephant, and again as a buffalo. Now he appeared in form of Indra, now as the god of fire, and again in a human form. Perceiving this inconsistent behavior, Gokarna conducted that he was somebody in an evil plight, and remaining firm spoke to him. Gokarna said, "Who are you, appearing in an exceedingly frightful form at night? And whence have you been reduced to? How have you been reduced to in this plight? Please tell us, where are you from, and whether you are some spirit or fiend or ogre?" Suta continued. Questioned by him thus at that moment, the spirit cried at the top of his voice again and again. Being unable to speak, he made gestures alone, it is said. Taking water in the hollow of his joined palms, then consecrating with a sacred text, Gokarna threw it on him and purged of his sin to some extent by the sprinkled water. With that water, the spirit began to speak. "I am no other than your own brother, Dhundhukari by name. The status of a Brahmana was forfeited by me through my own fault. Numerous sins were committed by me. Revolving in the plane of rank ignorance, I killed many men. As such was in my turn tortured to death by public women. Attained the form of a spirit in consequence of this, I am undergoing a miserable plight. As my sinful deeds are fructifying now as ordained by providence, I subsist on air alone. O friend, O brother, ocean of compassion you as you are, redeem me soon." Hearing his appeal, Gokarna forthwith spoke to him as follows. "Oblation, that is in the form of balls of cooked rice, etc., has been made by me for you, for your benefit in accordance with the scriptural ordinance at Gaya. It is a matter of great surprise to me how you have not been liberated in spite of that. If no redemption has been brought about even through Shraddha at Gaya, there is no other remedy in this behalf. I am afraid. Point you out in detail, O Spirit, what should be done by me now." The Spirit said, "My redemption will not be brought about even through hundreds of Shraddhas done at Gaya. Think of you some other remedy now." Gokarna was struck with wonder to hear that reply of his, and said, "If your redemption cannot be brought about even through hundreds of Shraddhas done at Gaya, your liberation, I am afraid, is impossible. Nevertheless, at present, O Spirit, stay in your abode, free from fear. Pondering over this question, I shall do something conducive to your liberation." As instructed by him, Dhundhukari departed thence into his own abode. Gokarna taxed his brain over the problem the whole night, but could not strike upon any solution. Seeing him come, people called on him in the morning out of affection. He related to them all that had occurred the previous night. Men of learning, those established in yoga, enlightened souls and exponents of Veda, even though they ransacked heaps of sacred books, did not see his liberation through any expedient. Thereupon, on the question of his liberation, the verdict of the sun god was accorded the supreme place by all. Gokarna, they all say. Then, arrested by the movement of the sun god by virtue of his ascesis, he prayed to the god as follows. "Hail to you, O witness of the universe! Pray tell me the means of release concerning Dhundhukari." Hearing this, the sun god spoke distinctly from afar as follows. "Mukti will follow from Srimad Bhagavata. Give a complete reading to it in a course of a week." This pious exhortation of the sun god was a matter of fact clearly heard by all. All said in one voice, "This should be pursued with diligence. It is so easy to accomplish." Making up his mind to that effect, Gokarna set himself to the task of expounding Srimad Bhagavata. Men flocked to that place from different parts of the country, including the countryside, for the purpose of listening to an exposition of Srimad Bhagavata. They say the crippled, blind, aged, and dull-witted too arrived for the attenuation of their sin. There was a large concourse which caused wonder even to the gods. The moment Gokarna ascended the seat meant for the exponent and started expounding the story of Srimad Bhagavata, the aforesaid spirit too arrived. Looking about for a seat, he saw there a bamboo with 7 joints standing erect. Entering the hollow of the base of the bamboo, he actually settled down there for hearing the exposition. Unable to remain fixed at one place in the air, gaseous as he was, he entered the bamboo. Taking a Brahmana, who is votary of Lord Vishnu, to be the chief listener, the said Gokarna lit, that is the son of a cow, began to expound Srimad Bhagavata to an audible tone from Book 1 itself. At the close of the day, when the exposition was adjourned for that day, they say a marvel took place. One of the 7 joints of the bamboo, that is the last one, cracked while the good men present there looked on. On the second day at sunset, likewise, the second joint from below burst open, and on the third day, at dusk, the third one similarly burst open. Having burst open in this way the 7 joints of the bamboo in 7 days, the spirit shed the form of a spectre through the hearing of all 12 skandhas of the Srimad Bhagavata. He appeared in a divine form, dark brown like cloud, clad in yellow silk, adorned with strings of tulsi beads, wearing a diadem on his head, and decked with an alligator-shaped earrings. He presently greeted his brother Gokarna and addressed him as follows: "Out of kindness, O brother, I have been read by you of the deluded form of a spectre. Blessed is the exposition of Srimad Bhagavata, which drives away once for all the agony a spectre is heir to. And praiseworthy in a 7 days reading of Srimad Bhagavata, which bestows on the hearer as its rewards an abode in the realm of Sri Krishna. When a 7 days reading of Bhagavata is at hand, all the scenes shudder to think that the contemplated exposition will bring about their dissolution apace. Even as a fire consumes all kinds of pieces of wood, whether moist or dry, small or big, so does a 7 days hearing of Srimad Bhagavata eradicate all kinds of sin, whether recent or long-standing, minor or major, and perpetrated in thought, word or deed. It has actually been declared by the wise in the assembly of the gods that the birth in this land, that is Bharatvarsha, of men who fail to hear the story of Srimad Bhagavata is fruitless. If one does not get to hear an exposition of Srimad Bhagavata, the scripture associated with the name of Sri Shuka, of what avail in this unstable body, maintained through excessive fondness, nourished well and made stronger? The body is supported on a column of bones, held together by a network of nerves and tendons, mortared with flesh and blood, and covered all over with skin. It is full of bad smell, being a receptacle of urine and feces. It is ever afflicted with old age, sorrow, and metamorphosis. Is the home of diseases, frail, difficult to satisfy, hard to maintain, corrupt, faulty, and momentary. It has been characterized as having its finality in what goes by the name of the worms, if it is buried; faces, if it is devoured by vultures and crows and dogs and jackals; and ashes, if it is cremated. Why then should one not perform with this unstable body action leading to immortality? What permanence can possibly be ascribed to an organism nourished with the essence of a foodstuff such as rice, which, if it is dressed in the morning, gets rotted by the evening? Through the hearing of a 7 days exposition of Srimad Bhagavata, Sri Hari is brought within one's reach. Hence, the aforesaid indeed is the only means of driving away all kinds of sins. like bubbles appearing in water or mosquitoes among living beings. Those who remain deprived of hearing and exposition of Srimad Bhagavata are born only to die. When the joints of a dry bamboo, a purely material substance, could be broken open through the hearing of such an exposition, what wonder then if the knot of ignorance in the mind gets similarly snapped thereby? The aforesaid knot in the heart is broken, and doubts of every kind gets resolved, as a residue of past karma gets eliminated when a 7 days exposition of Srimad Bhagavata is heard. When the sacred water in the shape of such exposition, which is highly efficacious in washing off this stain occasioned by mud, sins of worldly life, gets treasured up in the mind, mukti, the final beatitude, is declared by the wise as ensured. Even while the Spirit was speaking in this strain, they say there arrived on that very occasion an aerial car manned by denizens of Vaikuntha and invested with a dazzling halo. The spirit of Dhundukari, the son of Dhunduli, boarded the aerial car, while everyone looked on. Beholding the attendants of Lord Vishnu in the aerial car, Gokarna spoke to them as follows. On this very spot there are many sinless souls that have listened to my discourse. How is it that aerial cars have not been synchronously brought by you for them? It appears that all those who assembled here have listened in equal measure. How then has disparity come about in the matter of reward? Kindly explain this, O beloved servants of Sri Hari. The servants of Sri Hari replied, the disparity in the matter of reward here has come about on account of diversity in hearing the exposition. Though it has been heard by all, it has not been reflected upon in an equal degree of intensity by everyone. Therefore has this disparity resulted in the matter of reward, in spite of their common devotion in the shape of hearing the Lord's stories. O bestower of honors on others, the exposition was heard by the spirit of Dhundukari while abstaining from food and drink for 7 days and nights together. Cogitation, etc. was also thoroughly done by him with a composed mind. Infructuous is spiritual wisdom which is not firmly rooted. Hearing of scriptures is marred through listlessness. Counsel which is received with a doubting mind is lost and fruitless in muttering of a sacred text done with a restless mind. Damned is a tract of land destitute of devotees. Food offered for the benefit of a departed ancestor or a relative to an unworthy recipient is lost. A gift made to one not versed in the Veda goes in vain, and a race which is devoid of good conduct is ruined. Faith in the words of a preceptor, the thought of one's wretchedness, the subjugation of one's mental aberrations, and unfaltering devotion to hearing of Srimad Bhagavata. If these and other such virtues are accomplished, then alone is the hearing of Srimad Bhagavata is effective. At the end of a second hearing, all will surely attain an abode in Vaikuntha. Lord Sri Krishna, the protector of cows, will personally take you, O Gokarna, to Goloka, his divine realm. Saying so, they all ascended to Vaikuntha, the realm of Lord Vishnu, chanting in a chorus the names and praises of Sri Hari. In the month of Shravana, corresponding to the July of the English calendar, Gokarna gave an exposition of Srimad Bhagavata according to the same procedure in course of a week once more, and they all heard it again. Now hear, O Narada, what happened at the end of the exposition. Sri Hari appeared, they say, along with his devotees in a number of aerial cars. Shouts of triumph and greetings issued from many lips on that occasion. Out of delight, Sri Hari himself blew his conch Panchajanya on the spot, and closely embracing Gokarna, Sri Hari gave him a similar of his own, a form similar to his own. His Hari-like instantly transformed other hearers too into divine personages, dark brown of hue, clad in yellow silk, decked in a diadem and a pair of alligator-shaped earrings. All living beings that were present in that village, including dogs and men belonging to the pariah class, they too were given a seat in the aerial cars by the grace of Gokarna on that occasion. They were all transferred to the realm of Srihari, the destination of yogis. Delighted to hear the exposition of Srimad Bhagavata, the aforesaid Sri Krishna, the divine cowherd who is fond of his devotee, ascended with Gokarna to his divine realm, Goloka, dear to his cowherds. As the residents of Ayodhya accompanied Sri Rama in the former days, so were they transplanted to Golaka, which is difficult for the yogis to attain. By only hearing the exposition of the Srimad Bhagavata, they actually reached that divine realm which is ever beyond the reach of the sun, the moon, and the siddhas. What shall we tell you on this occasion about the glorious rewards that are earned by hearing the stories forming part of Srimad Bhagavata according to the procedure of a 7 days sacrificial session? In short, those by whom even a single letter of the exposition of Srimad Bhagavata given by Gokarna was drunk with their ears no more return to a mother's womb. People undoubtedly attained by hearing a 7 days exposition of Srimad Bhagavata that destiny which people cannot attain by living on air, water or dry leaves and emancipating the body. Those severe austerities practiced for long periods in time and yogic practices, staying in Chitrakuta, the great sage Shandilya too reads out this sacred story while immersed in bliss of oneness with Brahma, the Absolute. Heard even once, this most sacred story bids fair to burn one's whole mass of sins. If read on the occasion of a Shraddha, it brings satiation to the mains, and if read carefully every day, it leads to cessation of rebirth. Thus ends the 5th discourse entitled A Description of Gokarna's Liberation, forming the part of glory of Srimad Bhagavata in the Uttarakhanda of the glorious Padma Purana. Om Namah Vasudevaya. Thank you for listening. I will continue with Discourse 6 tomorrow. Thank you very much.